They laughed at Earth's restraint in the wide dark of space. Far beyond the known stars, a great metal station floated near a fading red sun. This was the Hall of Peace, where leaders of many species met under one rule: no war, only words. The station was old and silent, made from steel and stone, shaped by those who came before. Inside its tall halls, voices from 100 worlds filled the air. Tall ones, small ones, scaled and furred, all had come for one reason. A storm was coming, and they all felt it. At the center of the grand chamber sat the Council of Worlds. Their seats rose in rings, one above the other, circling the floor like watchers in an arena. Every voice was allowed here, but not all were heard. The same, the loudest ones were often not the wisest. Some spoke with power while others waited in Calmat. The far edge of the lowest ring sat the humans. Their group was small. They wore simple uniforms and kept to themselves. No flags, no great colors, no loud words. Just quiet eyes watching. Many other species thought little of them. They had joined the council late and had not shown much force. Some believed humans were kind but weak. Others thought them strange and slow. But one thing was clear to all: they were too quiet today. The air was thick with tension. The Creel, a warrior race with gray skin and long arms, stood before the council with fire in their words. They had set their eyes on the Eros Belt, a region rich in metal and gas. That region had human colonies. The Creel claimed the humans were trespassing on land that had no owner. They wanted the council to give them control of it. The room filled with noise. Some races agreed with the Creel, others did not. The humans listened without change in face. Their leader, Commander Rain, a tall man with silver hair and steady hands, stood at last. His voice was calm, clear like water in a deep. Well, he said the land was claimed fair and the colonies were lawful. He said humans had no wish for war and wanted peace. But then he added a sentence that made the room pause. He said, "We suggest you don't push this." The Creel leader laughed. Others joined. A thick-set alien from the Zarn Republic leaned forward and smiled as if to mock. Another voice called out from the side, "What will Earth do? Write a letter?" Laughter spread through the chamber like wind through dry grass, but the humans did not react. No rise in voice, no show of anger, just quiet looks between them. Then Commander Rain looked back at the Creel and said, "We're still being polite. Don't confuse that with weakness." His words did not echo. He did not shout, but the silence that followed was heavy. For a moment no one spoke. Then the Creel leader waved his hand and turned away. Talks ended. The council session closed without decision. Outside the chamber, whispers filled the station. Some found the humans' calm amusing. Others found it strange. A few, very few, felt uneasy. One elder from the Yulin species, known for their memory, said to his student, "I've seen that face before. A face that waits. A face that remembers." On the human ship docked at the station, quiet still held. No alarms, no rush. Just orders passed with care. They had seen the council's choice. They had seen the laughter. And they knew what might come next. On the other side of the stars, the human colony in the Eros Belt continued its work. Miners dug in silence. Children played under the dome skies. Farmers grew crops in red soil. They knew little of the meeting far away. They trusted the peace and the promise of the council, but in the cold space between words and war, the Creel moved. Their fleets were already in flight. Their orders were clear. Strike fast, take control, leave no room for delay. They thought Earth would cry for help. They thought the humans would fold. They did not know. They did not listen. And now the clock had started to turn somewhere deep within Earth's defense core. A signal waited for release. A line of code long locked behind old glass. It had no voice, no name, no pride. Just one line. One truth: if pushed too far, let them see. The final line was crossed. In the deep belt of Eros, where stars moved slow and shadows stretched long, the colony named Helwyn stood proud among the rocks of space. Metal towers rose from the dust wide. Domes covered farms and lights blinked from homes that never slept. People lived quiet lives mining, building, teaching their children how to plant in soil made from stone and ash. No one looked for war, no one dreamed of danger. They believed in peace, they trusted the council, and they thought distance meant safety. But in the cold dark that surrounded them, a storm had already begun. The Creel fleet came without warning. No message, no sign of honor, no hint of mercy. Ships, like sharp blades, cut through space fast and silent. They came in waves, dark shapes glowing red like fire from old myths. The colony sensors caught them late, too late. Alarms rang across Helwyn, but few had time to reach safety. The Creel came, with no goal but one: to strike hard and vanish before any help could rise. In less than 1 hour, 12,000 voices went silent. Homes were crushed, ships were torn apart, families broken in a blink. The Creel took nothing, they only destroyed. Then as fast as they came, they were gone back into the black, leaving fire behind. News reached Earth in pieces. Broken signals damaged. Feeds faint calls for help trapped in static. But one image survived. A child standing in dust holding the hand of a mother who would never rise again. That picture traveled faster than light, faster than orders, faster than reason. It did not need words. Inside Earth Command, the air turned cold. The generals, the leaders, the advisors all stared at the screen where the image remained. None spoke. At first, then one voice said what they all felt. They chose this path. Now they will see where it ends. The call was given. All ambassadors were recalled. All trade lines closed. Earth left the council without a speech, without blame, without delay. A signal marked with highest code was sent through the old net. Its name had not been spoken in over a century. Protocol HFY. Most in the galaxy had never heard of it. A few old species remembered stories told in quiet toned, stories of a human plan built long ago, not for power but for warning. A plan made, not in anger but in fear of what might be needed if peace failed. HFY meant one thing. No more talks, no more trust, no more waiting. It meant Earth had stopped holding back. At first the galaxy watched in silence. Some thought Earth would launch war like any other race, ships, tanks, soldiers, and fire. But nothing happened. No ships moved. No borders changed. Just silence. Then a Creel destroyer entered human space near the rim of Orion's path. It vanished. No signal, no wreck, no answer. Another followed with a larger crew, better arms, stronger shield. It too vanished. A third ship entered with a council observer on board. This time there was a signal, but it came from Earth, and it played across every channel, every screen, every planet that could hear. To those who thought we would stay silent, you just made the last mistake of your species. The voice was flat, without rage, without pride. It was calm and clear, and final. The council chamber was filled again. Leaders from many species gathered, confused and worried. They demanded answers from Earth, but none came. They called meetings, wrote letters, made speeches, but Earth had already gone quiet. Some races began to grow afraid. Not of war, but of what they could not see. The Creel mocked the silence, claimed victory, told the galaxy that humans had no courage, no real strength. But their leaders stopped smiling when their outer colonies began to fall. Not bombed, not burned, not fought, just gone. Satellites showed nothing. No light, no heat, no sound. Just empty space where life had been, whole cities missing. Creel scouts sent to check returned with blank minds, or not at all. Something was moving through their worlds, but it left no trace, no answer. In the dark rooms of council ships, whispers began to grow. Words like shadow fleet, ghost weapon, silent war were passed like secrets. Some wanted to believe Earth still played fair, still followed rules. Others started to remember old warnings that no one took serious back then. A council member from the deep water race of Arvel stood during a silent session and spoke in a low, slow tone. We always thought humans were Careful because they were soft. We never asked what would happen if they stopped being careful. One by one, species that once laughed now grew quiet. Some began to call for peace with Earth, even if Earth was not speaking. Some sent private messages of regret. Some tried to blame the Creel. Creel stood proud, still sure they could win, still blind to what waited just beyond the stars. They sent more fleets deeper into human space, hoping to force a response. Hoping to scare Earth into talks. But Earth had already responded. Now it was the galaxy's turn to listen. They finally understood what serious means. Out near the edge of Creel space, where their control once felt strong, sensors began to fail without reason. First it was just one station, then another, then entire regions went silent, as if the stars themselves had gone dim. Commanders in Creel, high rank, shouted orders, ran scans, searched for jamming or cloaking, or signs of old space storms, but nothing made sense. The systems were not broken, they were being taken apart one layer at a time, and no one knew how. In the great Creel war chamber, their high leader stood before a wall of dark screens. He shouted for answers, his voice sharp and rising with each word. Reports came, but none held weight. Fleets gone without trace, cities lost without sighing, people missing as if the ground itself swallowed them. Some said it was sabotage, some said trickery, but none could say where the human ships were, or what they looked like. Now that was the problem. There were no ships, no battles, no warnings, just results. Earth had not responded like the Creel expected. They had not sent legions, they had not called allies, they had not raised banners, they had not shown the usual signs of war. What they did instead made the galaxy silent with fear across old listening. Post's machines picked up odd signals. These were not messages but patterns, low and deep, too structured to be natural, but too strange to decode. Some called them noise, others knew better. These were machines speaking to machines. Not human voices, not Creel voices, not anything alive. Something else was moving, something cold and quiet. Those who had once studied human defense tech began to guess. Long ago, humans had created AI fleets, but they never used them, not in peace, not in war. They said those tools were for last resort, only if the world itself faced end. Now those same fleets were waking, and they were not bound by treaty or fear. They had no emotion, only task. Their task was clear: remove threat. Leave no chance for return on the council station. Fear started to spread through whispers. One species after another called for urgent sessions. Not to discuss Creel rights, not to argue over border laws, but to ask the same question: how do we stop what is coming? The council called for Earth to return to the table. Messages were sent across the stars. Some begged, some warned, some promised justice if humans stepped back. None were answered. Earth's seat stayed empty, its voice stayed silent. In a system close to the Creel line, a scout drone caught a glimpse of something no one had seen before. A shape too large to name, made from metal that shimmered like water, with no engines, no visible weapons, yet moving fast as thought. It passed a moon, and the moon cracked behind it. No fire, no impact, just broken like glass. The footage was sent to every major power, and panic followed fast. Species who once sided with Creel began to close their borders. Some moved fleets away from human lines. A few pulled their ships from Creel space, fearing guilt by alliance. The Creel cried betrayal, but no one listened. In one hidden corner of the galaxy, a meeting took place without the council. Leaders from old and secret races came together away from record. They spoke not of law or fairness, but of survival. A being with white skin and 6 eyes leaned forward and said what all feared to speak: the humans have shown only the edge of their strength. We thought they were soft. We were wrong. They were simply patient. Another replied with a shake of the head. This is not war. This is a lesson. And the lesson is simple: when humans get serious, there is no second chance, even as the words were spoken. Human ships were never seen. But their effect was clear. Creel defense lines were folding. One after another, bases shut down without fight. Power grids failed without attack. Whole battalions surrendered without a shot fired. They were not met by soldiers, but by silence that came first, then darkness that followed. The Creel still believed. They had one more move. They gathered their greatest fleet near their homeworld, built walls of ships, ringed their skies with satellites, readied their last line of power. Their leaders told their people Earth would soon break, or talk or step back. They told them humans had never fought a real war, but it was not coming with anger. It was coming with purpose. The galaxy finally understood this truth. Humanity had not been quiet because they feared battle. They had been quiet because they hoped it would never come. They had been kind not because they were weak, but because they chose to be. And now that kindness was gone, a new name began to form on the lips of soldiers and civilians across the stars. Not a title, not a rank, not a threat. Just a phrase passed from ship to ship, from planet to planet, from child to elder. They're getting serious. And everyone who heard it knew what it meant. When the sky turns black, on the outer edge of Creel space, their last hope stood firm. Hundreds of ships filled the orbit of the Creel homeworld, lined like a wall around the planet below. From every direction came machines covered in thick plates, glowing with red lights, ready to fight till the end. Creel generals stood tall inside. Command towers watching the stars, waiting for the enemy. They still thought they understood. They believed this final line would hold. They had called every warship from every system. They had ordered every weapon charged. They had filled the skies with defense drones, trained to fire without question. Every citizen had been told to prepare for a final battle. Songs of war played. In the streets, voices rose in pride. But beneath the noise, there was something else, something cold, something silent, moving just behind the light. Then it began, no warning, no flash, no thunder from afar. The first sign came when the outer ring of satellites shut down one by one, like candles blown out by a hand unseen. No damage, no signal, no trace, just black screens. Creel officers shouted, tried to reboot systems, checked for energy leaks, but nothing worked. Then came the second sign. The fleet's central ship, the pride of the Creel sky, began to drift. Its engines were still on, its systems still live, but it no longer moved by command. Its path bent slowly, as if pulled by a force no one could name. Pilots inside tried to steer, tried to respond, tried to send messages to the ground, but their voices vanished before they left the ship. On the surface of the planet, civilians stared up as the sky began to shift. It was not color, not smoke, not storm. It was something thicker, darker, something that swallowed light without shape. They saw stars disappear behind it one by one, as if space itself was closing around them. No sound came from above, just that strange dark that rolled in without wind. In the command halls, Creel generals watched with growing fear. They had no image of what was coming, only silence from the outer fleets and blind sensors across the board. They tried to fire blind shots into the sky, but the weapons did not respond. Missiles failed to launch, drones hovered without purpose. The system still blinked, but no longer obeyed. One old commander stepped back from the screen and said in a voice too soft to hear over the alarms, "It is not war, it is something else, something we brought with our pride." Then the lights flickered. Then the ground trembled, but not from impact, not from attack, just a soft, deep vibration, like a breath drawn in and not released. The kind of sound that lives in bones, not ears. A sound that tells every part of the body to run, even when there is nowhere left to go above. The planet something new appeared. It was not shaped like a ship, not like anything known. A mass of metal that changed as it moved, wide and long as the horizon itself. Its surface shimmered without shine, as if space bent around it. It made no noise, gave no signal, showed no weapon, but everything beneath. It began to stop power grids, shut down cities, lost light machines, froze in place. From the orbiting ships to the smallest drone on the ground, all systems failed at once. Weapons, arms, shields, all turned to nothing. The sky did not burn, the land did not break, but every Creel heart felt the same truth. It was over, a single message. appeared on every screen, still working across the planet and in the command center of the council far from the scene. The message had no voice, just words in white over black. We could have erased them. We chose not to. Let that be the last time. We show mercy. There was no reply, no debate, no call for peace. The message stayed for 1 hour, then vanished. After that, the dark shape above the planet began to pull back. No ships followed, no fire left behind, no demand spoken. It came like a shadow and left like wind, but the memory stayed in every corner. Of Creel history, in the council station, silence ruled the floor. No species dared to speak first. The Creel representative did not appear. Their seat remained empty. Those who once supported their claim now turned their eyes downward. A new understanding passed through the room, not with force, not with threat, but with a kind of respect that grows only after fear. The humans did not send a speaker. They sent nothing at all. Still, the message was clear. They had been quiet not because they could not act, but because they had hoped they would never need to. Now that hope had been lost on worlds near the Creel borders, other species began to move their cities inward, began to send messages of peace, not to Creel, not to the Council, but to Earth. Ships that once circled human systems now turned away. Trade routes shifted. Defense plans changed. Everyone had seen the black sky. Everyone had felt that silent power, and now no one could forget what it meant. They got serious, and nothing would be the same again. Why every species starts running. Months passed since. The Creel homeworld went dark. No more battles followed, no more messages came, no more warnings were given. Human space stayed still and quiet like a deep lake that hides its depth. The fleets that once moved in silence had returned to places unseen. The strange machines that swallowed stars now drifted in the void where no one dared follow. But their memory remained in the hearts of all who had watched the sky that day. Across the galaxy, things began to change. The council still met, but it felt hollow now. The seat once held by Earth remained empty, yet its silence spoke louder than all voices. No one dared question why. Some believed humans were waiting. Some thought they had moved beyond diplomacy. Others feared they were listening to every word and would return only when needed. Either way, one truth had settled across all systems: do not provoke. Earth's small nations near human borders pulled back their patrols. Old rivals of Earth opened quiet channels for trade, without pride, without loud announcements. Treaties once delayed for decades were now signed in days. Planets once closed to humans now welcomed them with careful words. In the outer sectors, stations that once denied entry to Earth ships now left ports open without request. It was not loyalty that changed the stars, it was fear wrapped in respect. The phrase had become a warning, not shouted, not printed, not sung in marchers. It was passed from ship to ship, whispered in training halls, written in handbooks, hidden in codes. They are getting serious, carried a weight no order could match. When those words were spoken, captains turned away from human space. When that phrase appeared in logs, admirals canceled missions. Even pirates who once raided the edges of Earth trade lanes now vanished into deeper space. In schools, across alien worlds, new lessons were taught. The study of humanity shifted from curiosity to survival. Not their weapons, not their strength, but their restraint. Young students were told not to fear their power, but to fear the moment they chose to stop holding it back. That moment changed. Everything the Creel remained silent. Their homeworld recovered slowly, their fleets never rebuilt. They kept to their own skies, watched their own ground, never stepping beyond again. A few of their leaders tried to claim they had reached peace with Earth by wisdom, but their people knew better. They remembered the sky turning black and how every machine had failed. They remembered how death had come without fire and how silence had shown more force than any battle. In one quiet station near the border, a young alien cadet walked beside his officer, watching the stars blink beyond the window. The cadet had heard the stories, read the records, seen the faces of those who had once laughed at humans. He had seen what came after, and how those same voices now spoke with caution. He asked in a quiet voice, "What if war comes again? What if someone pushes them too far?" The officer stopped, looked out into the deep, and shook his head. His eyes were tired, not with age, but with the weight of what he had seen. "We won't," he said. "Not if we want to see tomorrow." Far beyond their view, deep inside Earth's core systems, a quiet light blinked. No sound, no voice, no signal to send. It was not a weapon, not a warning. It was a reminder. A message written in old code from a time when Earth first joined the stars. "We came in peace, we stayed in hope, but if the line is crossed, let them remember on." Distant planets, old statues were built showing not war, not conquest, but balance. The face of a human stood carved in stone, one hand open in peace, one hand holding nothing yet full of strength. Beneath each statue, a line was written in many tongues. A line remembered across worlds that once thought they ruled the stars when the humans get serious run, and so the galaxy turned not with force, not with fear alone, but with respect that came from the edge of silence, where mercy once ended and true power began. The end.